Hello, and welcome to my submission for the Magfast 2027 Speedrun Charity event. First off, my apologies for the static screen. This is a pre recorded video, and I needed to pause at the beginning while I give this introduction. This is a video submission for the hit game Balatro, a poker roguelike. In particular, this is a category called naneinf%. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Balatro, you play poker hands to accumulate points with increasing point requirements the farther you get into a run. To do this, you buy various power ups to help increase your score. You need around half a million points to beat the game normally, which takes 24 antes or 8 rounds. After 8 rounds, you can enter endless mode, which allows you to continue playing with exponentially higher scoring requirements. Balatro uses a floating point data type to store its score value, which has a storage limit. Most casual players might only score a billion or so points a few times across dozens of hours. For myself, until I started speedrunning this category, I only broke a trillion points, I think, one time. Another way that you might say a trillion points is 10 to the 12th power, or the number 1 followed by 11 zeros. In Balarcho, to break the scoring limit, we need to score over 10 to the 305th power, or 1 followed by 304 zeros. Needless to say, that's an extremely high number. It is something that most players will never get close to seeing, as it requires a specific combination of power ups, aka jokers in this game, to achieve this score. Most native strategies require the joker per KO, though some people call it Perkio. I might use it interchangeably in this video. Perkeo is a legendary joker that will make copies of certain power ups. It is possible to reach naneinf without Perkeo, but it requires a very specific combination of jokers and other power ups, some of which have to be bought at very specific times in a run. Doing it that way is rather difficult and RNG heavy. Strategies involving Perkeo are much easier and much more consistent to break the scoring limit. However, Perkeo is a legendary joker. Every time you open a card pack in this game, there is a 0.3% chance that pack will contain a legendary joker. Additionally, there are 5 legendary jokers, which means the odds of finding per KO is actually 1/5 of that, or about 0.06%. Given that we need a per KO early in the run in order to break the scoring limit, this makes it very rare to even get a seed that is possible to achieve nanif. Per KO might be hard to find, but once we have a per KO, this run is rather consistent. In order to speedrun this category, runners use a mod called Brainstorm. Brainstorm lets you set some initial seed requirements, one of which is finding a Perkeo at the beginning of the game. Now, this might sound like cheating, but it isn't. The run is still unseeded, aka the run is still random and unknown to the runner or anyone else. What Brainstorm does, it rolls 1,000 seeds per frame, looking for a seed that starts with Perkeo, and then it loads that seed for me. From the runner's perspective, the run is still unseeded. It's just filtered to guarantee that Perkeo is first. If we didn't use this mod, it would take hours of restarting before you could even get a single run. Besides the Brainstorm mod, the only other mods included are some quality of life mods, such as the in-game timer and a pop-up for Joker explanation that you'll see in the top left of the screen. Um, as said, Brainstorm is required in order to be able to actually grind this category, but I just want to make clear what this does. Um, this is the basics for this category. I'll go into more detail as the run goes on. Last note, as I previously said, this is a pre-recorded run. The commentary has been added afterwards. This run requires a lot of thinking and on-the-fly decision making. Personally, I like to think I'm okay at speedrunning games, and I like to think I'm pretty okay at commentating on speedruns. But I personally can't do both at the same time. If I do, I either make gameplay mistakes because I'm trying to focus on talking, or I will typically lose my train of thought while speaking because I'm focused on the game. I kind of do both really badly if I try to do both at the same time. There is a lot of information in this run, and I wanted to give my best commentary, hence the decision to add commentary and post production. For the run at Magfest, I have 2 very knowledgeable friends who are familiar with the category and the game who do most of the commentating for me so that I can focus on trying to break the scoring limit. Um, Finally, for this video in particular, I'm rather new to this category, and why I can consistently finish the run with like a 90% success rate, which is very high. I'm still working on being quicker with decision making and more importantly, mouse movements. So my apologies for the video if it looks like I'm not being very efficient with my mechanics. I've been doing a lot of practice and I've improved, and I feel confident I'll continue to improve on those. The important hard thing is the actual routing to get to the scoring limit break. So with all that being said, let's get started on the run. Once I load the game, you'll see me hit a button on my keyboard to reroll the seed to a random seed, with starting with Perkeo in the first pack. I'll also use my starting hex card here on it, which will increase my score by a multiplier of times 1.5. So while we're doing these initial rounds, since there's not as much to talk about, let me explain what Balatro is to people not familiar. Balatro is a roguelike where we'll be playing poker hands, such as this 2-pair I just played. Balatro is made up of 8 antes in the base game, each one consisting of 3 rounds: a small blind, a big blind, and a boss blind. And each ante has a score we have to beat. If you can't beat it with, in this case, 4 hands, it's a game over. After round 8, you can continue playing with Endless Mode, which has increasing scoring requirements, which get progressively harder as you go on. You play these poker hands to score points, which you can see on the left there. Your score is based off 2 numbers. The blue number is called chips, while the red number is your multiplier, or mult for short. Early on, we want cards that can increase both chips and mult, but later we'll focus exclusively on multiplier. So we're seeing here, I've already done my first shop, and I'm trying to play cards beat 300. I was moving cards around there because one of the jokers I picked up is the to-do list, which every round changes. It picks a random hand, and you get $4 for every hand you play. So that past boss blind was a 3 of a kind, so try to play 3 of a kind to get some money. This one, I believe, is a 2-pair. However, I will be using a death card here, so we'll go into that in a minute, why that's important. But you can see here I'm trying to play different cards, in this case a high card, in order to maximize my money. Money is very important for Balatro. How you do well in this category or any category has to do with how much money you have. The more money, the better. So what can you buy? So there are different types of power-ups in Balatro that increase our score. The first and main one are jokers, which you can see at the top of the screen. At the start of a game with most decks, you can hold 5 jokers. Right now, I'm holding 4 jokers out of 5, as you can see at the top there, at the bottom left of the joker bar. You can hold more, but it requires very specific things. In this run, we will need to hold 6 jokers, so that is one of our goals, is to figure out how to hold another joker. Most jokers increase your score somehow, but there are some that give you money or have other abilities. For instance, this to-do list that we have is giving us money every time we play certain hands. And Perkeo, it also doesn't give score, and we'll go over that in a second. The next type of power-up is vouchers, which during the shop you can see in the bottom left. Vouchers are passive abilities, and you cannot, unlike any other item, you cannot sell it once you buy it. You get 1 voucher per ante, with one exception, that is it. It is a limit of 1 per ante. There are 32 vouchers in the game, and this run will end around ante 12 or 13. So there's a lot of vouchers that you're not going to see. One reason we use the Perkeo method in this run to get naneinf versus the non-Perkeo one is because of vouchers. Trying to get naneinf without Perkeo requires very specific vouchers and a lot of very specific ones, and you can't easily get more past that 1 per ante. Perkeo does not require any, but there are some that are nice. For instance, in the first shop, I picked up Overstock, which increases the amount of cards in the store from 2 to 3, which increases the amount, what I could buy. The next type of power-ups are consumables, which go in the top right corner here. The first type are planet cards. Planets will increase the level of your poker hand, which will increase the amount of chips and mult that hand gives you. Each planet is associated with a hand, so Pluto is high card, Jupiter is flush, etc., etc. We're not super focused on planets. We need a little bit to kind of get going, but it's not super important for this run. So we can see here, to get back to actual commentary, I found a blueprint. We'll go over in a minute what I need to beat this run, but blueprint is one of the jokers we need. It's possibly the best joker in the game because it can copy any other joker, and the game starts breaking once you can copy jokers. Um, so that was a very good pickup. Getting back to consumables, though, the second type of consumable we have are tarot cards, which is what you'll actually see at the top right there. Tarot cards all have different abilities, most of which manipulate cards in your deck. For instance, Strength that you see on the screen can level up 2 cards, which I'll use right here to turn a Queen and a Jack into a King and a Queen. There are ones that can change your suit or add other modifiers to your cards. And then there are a few tarot cards that will they can do other things like give you money. The last type of cards are spectral cards. Spectral cards are very powerful and they have a wide range of effects. Typically, though, you can only find them in spectral packs, which make it very hard to find them normally. You're kind of limited in most runs. You're only going to see a few. The exception to this is the Ghost deck, which is the deck we are playing. The Ghost deck allows us to find special cards in the shop, which is why we are playing this, because we will need very specific spectral cards in order to get naneinf, in particular Ectoplasm, Deja Vu, and Cryptid. So the reason why we started with Perkeo, you can see at the top right corner, is because Perkeo can duplicate our consumable cards by making a negative copy of them. Negative copies do not count towards your limit. Most commonly, you'll see negative jokers. So if I found a negative joker right now, I could hold it, and my jokers will say 6 out of 6 instead of 5 out of 5. Perkeo is the only way to get negative copies of consumables. In particular, we're going to need lots of copies of Cryptid, which we will hopefully find later in the run. But until we get to that point, we're going to use Perkeo to copy other cards, in particular this Death here. The Death Tarot card lets us copy one Joker to another, and we're going to use that to manipulate our deck to eventually get a deck of all Kings. Other Jokers we care about are the Hangman, which deletes 2 cards from our deck, Temperance, and Hermit, which both generate money. There's a few others I'll come up, but those are the main ones we're going to be looking for. Devil makes gold cards, Chariot makes steel cards, both of which will also be important. But for right now, one of our goals is to get our deck to a state where it's all Kings. The other goal we have here is to get money. So you can see that we picked up a mail-in rebate here, which will pick a random card every round, and if you discard that card, you get $5. We can copy that with the blueprint here, and so now if we discard the right card, we will get $10 instead, which we can see right here. If we discard Ace, we get 5, but now we're actually getting 10. This is very important later. We can use the mail-in rebate to get a whole lot of money. So our goals right now are to get or to make sure we don't die. So we do want score here, and then we also want to get money, and we want to make a deck full of Kings. And you can see right here, getting 1 death per turn really makes it easy to quickly turn our deck into all Kings. With Blueprint, Blueprint copies any Joker to the right of it, and we can use that for almost every Joker in the game. So right now, whenever we click next round, Perkeo will generate us a tarot card. But with Blueprint, it'll actually generate 2. Perkeo picks a card at random from your consumables, but is proportional. So if you had 20 deaths and 1 Hermit, it most likely will pick a death card. In Balatro, you can move around Jokers on your bar, and depending on what Jokers you have, that might be important. With Blueprint in particular, I can move Jokers around, and now I have put the mail-in rebate next to the Blueprint instead of the Perkeo. This way it copies it, so every time I discard a card for the mail-in rebate, now instead of $5, I'll get 10 because it's copied. Now I'm moving the Swashbuckler over next to the Blueprint to copy that. The Swashbuckler gives me higher mult for the more Jokers I have, which right now is important because I want to make sure I can still get the score I need to survive. Um, when you focus on money, most jokers that give you money don't give you score, and in this case, the Perkeo additionally is not giving a lot of score. Therefore, I want to make sure I can still hit my scoring requirements, because if I die, then that's game over. So that's kind of what my initial strategies are early on. Is I'm trying to get my requirements, I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to make my deck all kings while not dying. Money is king in this game. With the exception of vouchers, everything can be found in the shop, and you can click the reroll button and pay money to reroll what items are in the shop. In theory, if you had infinite money in the game, you could reroll over and over and over again and find every joker and every consumable you need. We don't have infinite money, but the more money we can generate, the more likely we can finally find all the cards we need. One more thing I want to say right now is every boss has a debuff or disadvantage. That one we just did nullifies all spade cards, so spade cards don't score or do anything. This is actually kind of important because there are, I think, 200 or something, less than that, like 100 or so boss binds, and they don't repeat until you've gone through all of them, which will not happen normally unless you go out of your way to try to repeat boss blinds. So we just have one that debuffs spades. That's very important because now we know that will never come back up. And so we can make our deck all king of spades, knowing that that will never come up again. What you don't want to get into is a state where a boss blind nullifies your deck. So if you made all kings of hearts and then very late on you get a boss blind that nullifies all king of hearts, then you're gonna be kind of sad because you're not gonna be able to maybe even finish the game. So I know that, so I'm purposely now picking spades because I know that one is quote safe. Oh man, that's a lot to talk about. We haven't even got to the big question, which is how do you break the scoring limit? You can see right now I'm only getting a few thousand points, right? Which is a lot less than 10 to the 305th power. So what do we have to do? In this game, there are a few different ways we can increase our multiplier, that red number to the right there. The first are jokers like the Swashbuckler, where the Swashbuckler is adding plus 22, I think, mult, which adds that to that number. We're copying it with the blueprint, so it means 44 mults being added to there, which is great for the early game. There are some jokers, like the photograph we just picked up, that will give us ×2 mult whenever we play a face card. That is considered a multiplicative joker. A multiply, a joker that has a multiplier. Instead of adding to your mult, you're taking your current mult and you're timesing it by 2 when you play a face card. You can see here we have the photograph and we have this Hanging Chad joker as well. Hanging Chad re-triggers the first card 2 more times that you play. So we played a king, and by re-triggering it, the first time the king will activate the photograph, and so our multiplier gets ×2. But then it triggers 2 more times because of the Hanging Chad, so it's ×2, ×2, ×2. Blueprint's also copying Hanging Chad, so that's ×2, ×2. So that is increasing our multiplier by 2 to the 5th power. That is what we call exponential multiplier, and that is kind of the key for any high score Balatro runs that we might have. So what we're looking for is the Joker Baron. Baron gives you 1.5 times multiplier for every king in your hand. So if you have 8 kings in your hand and you play, a card, your multiplier is going to be your multiplier, the red number, will be multiplied by 1.5 to the 8th power. To achieve naneinf, like I said before, we need 10 to the 305th power. Another way to think of it in terms of Baron is we need 1.5 to the 1800 power. And like we said, If you had a hand of 8 kings, you're getting 1.5 to the 8th. So you need 1,800 triggers of Baron, which is a lot. But there are a few ways we can do this. The first is by making our kings steel cards. Steel cards, when they are held in your hand, give another 1.5 times your multiplier, just like the Baron does. Another way is to put a red seal on your steel card. A red seal re-triggers the card again, including anything else that depends on the card. So a red seal on a king will trigger the Baron the first time normally, and then the red seal will activate, and Baron will trigger a second time. The last is the Joker Mime, the Mime Joker re-triggers everything held in your hand, any card held in your hand that has an effect. Our goal is to have 3 Barons and 2 Mimes. In this setup, with each, if we have a handful of steel kings with a red seal, we will have a 1.5 times multiplier trigger for the steel, and then a 1.5 times multiplier for the Baron, and then another one for the second Baron, another one for the third Baron, for 4 total triggers of 1.5. Then the red seal triggers on all those again for 4 more, resulting in 8. And then the first mime would re-trigger for 12, and then the last mime would re-trigger for 16. So each king in our hand, if we had 3 Barons and 2 mimes, would give us 1.5 to the 16th for a single king. Like we said, though, we need 1,800 triggers, which would require about 113 red seal kings, steel red seal kings, which is a little higher than our max hand size of 8. And that's where Perkeo comes in. You can see that last turn I picked up the Cryptid consumable here. Cryptid, you can select a card, and when you use Cryptid, it'll add 2 copies of that card to your hand. Using that, we can increase our max hand size past our maximum amount. So, like I said, we need 113 red seal cryptids once we have 3 Barons and 2 mimes. That means we'll need a little bit over 50 some copies of cryptid in order to increase our max hand size enough to break the scoring limit. One way to do this is once we have Baron and Mime, we can use copy jokers in order to copy them. Blueprint's one. We have recently picked up Brainstorm as another. Brainstorm is just like Blueprint, but Blueprint copies the Joker directly to its right. Brainstorm copies Joker all the way to the left side of your Jokers. In this setup, I have Blueprint pointing at Brainstorm, so Blueprint's copying Brainstorm, Brainstorm's copying Perkeo. So now every time we select next round, we will get 3 cryptids. I also just picked up a voucher that will increase my hand size by 1, which is also very important for this. There are 2 vouchers that do that, and it's very helpful for this run in order to maximize your score. So we're making kings in our hand because when we eventually get the Baron, that's what we're going to have to use to win. Because Baron only works on kings. Ideally, we'd have a Mime, a Baron, a Blueprint, a Brainstorm, and then another copy of Mime, Baron, Blueprint, or Brainstorm, and that will result in us getting essentially 3 Barons and 2 Mimes, because we can copy the Mime and Baron with our Blueprints and Brainstorms to get to that combination of 3 and 2. Right now, I have the copy jokers, which is awesome, but I need the Baron and I need the Mime, both of which are important. The Baron in particular is important to get early if possible because it results in your score going up a lot. And I'll give you a little spoiler for this run. I do not get it until the very end. So this run in particular is a little more nerve-wracking because I had to be very aware of my score. One of the fun things about naneinf% is that what you need to beat the game, you might get in different orders, which then changes your strategy. So what do we actually need then to achieve naneinf, now that we've broken down the math? Well, we need a Perkeo, which we have. We need a Baron for our score. We need a Mime to re-trigger cards in our hand for the Baron. We need at least 2 more Barons and a Mime. Now, this is hard because in Balatro, the shop will not give you any Joker that you already have a copy of. So I cannot get another blueprint or brainstorm right now. There are three ways around that, and we'll go over that as they come up. But since we need two mimes, three barons, and we can only get a baron, a mime, a blueprint, and a brainstorm, that's only four. So we need to figure out a way to get an extra copy of one of those. And we'll get more into that when it comes up. We'll also need a special card called Ectoplasm. Ectoplasm, the first time you use it in a run, will turn one of your jokers at random negative, so it will not count to your maximum amount of jokers. But you reduce your hand size by one. In this run in particular, you can only use it one time. If you use it a second time, it decreases your hand size by 2. If you use it a third time, it'll decrease it by 3. Fourth time, it'll decrease it by 4. We don't want to use it more than once because we need our hand size. Real quick, I picked up a special card for medium that puts a purple seal on a card. When you discard a card with a purple seal, it will generate a random tarot card. It's good to have a few cards with purple on it so that we can generate more tarot cards to help fix our deck better and hopefully generate more money. Getting back to our requirements, we also need to have at least one king with a red seal on it. So this way we can then start copying that and modifying it. This can be a little bit difficult. Your options are to find a red seal card in a standard card pack and then use something like strength to increase it to a king, but that's kind of random. There is a special card called Deja Vu that lets you put a red seal on a card, and that's the more likely path we're going to take. Though in this run, it will take a while to find that red seal, but it is needed. And then the last thing we need is a cryptid, which we've already found. Sometimes you find that much later in the run. We're going to need 50-some cryptids in order to break the scoring limit. And so finding one early with 2 copy jokers means we can generate 3 cryptids per turn. So we don't need to worry about our cryptid generation. There are some times where you get your Baron and Mime early, but you find cryptid late, and you're under the gun of trying to get 53 cryptids or whatever it is, and before you get to a point where you can't score anymore. I also picked up here for a voucher, I picked up Director's Cut, which is a voucher that lets me re-roll a boss blind once per ante. Side note, I found the mime here, so now we just need the Baron. I'm trying to figure out what to sell for it. The Hanging Chad with photographs is giving me a lot of points, but I need the blueprint, I need the brainstorm, I need the Perkeo, so I had to sell one of them. The mime will re-trigger everything in my hand. So I have seal cards here. I just made another one with a death. So the mime retriggering those and copying them will result in a lot of score. I also have these cards that are called gold cards. Gold cards give you $3 at the end of the round if they're still in your hand. So with the mime, that retriggering with 2 copy jokers, each gold card in my hand will give me $9. I'm also playing 2 cards here that have gold seals. They give $3 when played. I've got some of those earlier. I just been talking about other stuff, so I didn't mention that. But all that can generate money. With the mime retriggering stuff in hand, gold cards are very important because that could be a good way for us to get money. I also now have picked up Mail-in Rebate, which I had earlier. Mail-in Rebate, like I said, picks a random card from your deck. It has to be a card you have in your deck. So if you have a deck of all kings, it'll always pick kings. And when you discard one, you get $5. So if you get your deck of all kings, I have Mail-in Rebate and 2 copy jokers. It means each king will give you $15 when you discard it. You can discard 5 cards, which means that each discard, if you discard 5 kings, will give you $75, and I have 4 discards. So in theory, I could get $300 if I use all my discards on kings, assuming Mail-in Rebate picks kings. So Mail-in Rebate, once you have your deck fixed, so they're all the same card, you can make a lot of money, which we'll see a lot in this round. A lot of money means a lot of rerolls. A lot of rerolls means you can keep going through the shop until you find what you need. Getting back to what I was saying before, I picked up the Director's Cut voucher. That lets me one time per ante pay $10 to reroll the boss blind. Some boss blinds can kill this run. In particular, there's a boss blind that disables all face cards. If we get that late enough in the run, it will just end. I would say every failed run I've ever had is because I did not have the ability to reroll and I ran into that boss blind way too late in the game. So finding that is a huge relief. It's more of an emergency button because we can only re-roll it one time. But if we see that, we can re-roll it and be in a much better position. Right now, I just finished the quote-unquote main game and entering endless mode. In endless mode, the required points start going up more and more and more every single ante. Right now, we're in an okay position, but it'll get to the point where scoring becomes a problem as you jump from, 100 million to 10 billion to 10 trillion to, E11 to E13 to E15. Every round goes up more and more. So we're under low of a clock here. This is especially problematic because while the mime can re-trigger steel cards, which helps our score, the Baron's most of our score, and we haven't found it yet. So right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm still trying to make more kings. The more kings I have, the better it is for mail and rebate. I'm also just trying to make as much money as possible. We have found the cryptid. We have found the mime. We have found 2 copy jokers. We have We have not found an ectoplasm yet. We will need that in order to make one of our jokers a negative. So this way we can fit 6 jokers. We need the Baron, of course. That's the main one we're missing. And then we also do not have a red seal yet. We need to find a deja vu so we can put a red seal on one of these kings. And then we can use cards like the Death Tarot to start copying that to make red seal gold cards and red seal steel cards. Putting a red seal on steel with the mime will result in more score, which will help us survive. Putting red seal on a gold card means it'll trigger again in our hands, which is more money. I find the ectoplasm here. I sell the rebate to buy it because ectoplasm will pick one random joker you have and make it negative. And so now it doesn't count towards my limit, but it did decrease my hand size by 1. I do make a small mistake here. I should have grabbed the ectoplasm and held it until I found something better because I did not necessarily need the scoring right now from making it negative. Like my 5 jokers I had was fine. Losing the rebate actually was not the best. So that was a mistake on my part because now I'm just losing money because of the rebate, because of me not having the rebate. Whereas now I have 2 open joker slots and I'm not using them right now. So I didn't have to use the ectoplasm now. I got a little excited and wasn't really thinking. But we'll get the rebate back. The rebate is a common joker. There are 3 different rarities of jokers: common, uncommon, and rare. When you have a lot of money, if you get rid of a common joker, there's a pretty good chance you'll get that common joker back at some point. Rare jokers, the copy jokers and the Baron are considered rare, whereas the mime is considered uncommon. Uncommon jokers are more common than rare jokers, but since there are more uncommon jokers than rare jokers, it is as likely to find a specific rare joker as it is to find a specific uncommon joker, which is a little weird, but because of that, finding the mime, finding the Baron can be difficult sometimes. Sometimes you have to spend a lot of money to find them. I do get the mail-in rebate back, so this is great because I can, again, use it to get more money. I pick up the photograph for a little bit more points, though I don't think it really matters too much. I pick up the Hanging Chad Tarot. Like we mentioned before, Hanging Chad deletes 2 cards from your deck. So I'm still trying to get it so that I have a deck of only kings, so the Hanging Chad is good. I don't need 52 cards in my deck. I care about just having, all kings, right? So I kind of hesitate here. The Hangman can destroy 2 cards, so I was trying to figure out a way of doing it to delete 2 cards instead of 1. I think I freaked out a little bit here, and I'm not doing the rebate this turn because I wasn't thinking correctly. This boss blind says I can only play one hand type this round, so I choose flush 5. Soon, though, I'm going to pivot the high card. Flush 5 is the hardest hand to make, so by default, it gives the most chips and multiplier. High card is the easiest to make, but it only gives a multiplier of 1. So we've been trying to find some Pluto planets in order to level that up. And we don't need to level up a lot because, whether you have a multiplier of 5 or multiplier of 10, once you are increasing your score by 1.5 to the 30th, the initial thing you're multiplying by doesn't matter too much once you get into these exponential stuff. But we do want our Pluto level up a tiny bit. I was about to say something about the last one, and now I don't remember. Yeah, so you can see here, I'm trying to discard. I'm trying to make some money by discarding kings here. But I will pivot the high card at some point soon once I have a bit more kings and the score requirement goes up a little bit more. And I'm kind of hesitating. I'm trying to figure out what the most optimal, move is. Right now, I know I'm going to need steel at some point because the score is getting higher and higher. But I don't actually have that many steel cards in my hand. So I'm burning one of my cryptids to make 2 more copies of it. And I'll do that a few more times. I'm generating 3 cryptids per turn, and I only need about 52 or 53 cryptids. Therefore, using 1 still puts me at +2 for the turn. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind. That's one of the advantages of having copy jokers, being able to copy the cryptids like that. I feel like I've been talking more about the game than I have the run itself, which is kind of an indication of how much is going on, how much information is happening. I pick up the trading card here. The trading card lets me discard a single card to destroy it and get $3. $3 isn't much, but being able to thin my deck a bit more to get to only kings, it can be pretty good, and I wasn't doing anything with that slot anyway. The photograph was not particularly helpful. For the rest of the run, scoring starts becoming a problem. In a Perkeo naneinf run, Baron gives you a lot of your scoring, but we don't have the Baron. We can use the Mine, the retrigger steel cards, but that's not as powerful. In this case, though, it's going to have to make do. The other problem is the more steel cards that we have in our hand, the less gold cards we have in our hand. And less gold cards means less money. So I don't want to rely on steel too much. You can see here I'm using 3 steel and barely getting over that 165,000 point because I'm trying to maximize my money still. I need as much money as possible. I still need that deja vu. And I still need the Baron. I pick up this negative Mystic Summit, not because it's useful, but because there is a boss blind that says it you have to sell a Joker in order to continue and do the boss. I kind of need most of my Jokers at this point, so I have purposely picking up a negative Joker so that if I run into that boss blind, I can sell the negative Joker and satisfy that requirement. Another thing I want to point out with Perkeo is that Perkeo picks a random card that you have in your consumable area and makes a copy of it. And of course, we are copying Perkeo twice. We have 30-some cryptids, so at this point, picking up stuff like a Death and a Chariot, it is very unlikely that Perkeo will pick those and copy it, which is actually what we want here. We want cryptids, and if it copies other cards, that's kind of a waste because we need cryptids. So at this point, I have enough Perkeos that I know I can pick up a Death, I can pick up a Chariot, I can carry it into the round, and then this way I can, use the Chariot to create a Steel card. I can then later use the Death to copy one Joker to another as well. I'm also just discarding, making money. I'm making $15 per king, so if I discard 5, that's 75. I make a mistake here. I discard a purple seal, which should generate a tarot, but I am maxed out on my consumables, so that's a mistake on my part. One thing that I've been doing this entire time is that if you have a consumable, it works similar to a Joker that if you have a consumable in your slot, you cannot find another one. So as long as I'm holding that death, I can never find another death in the shop. You can use this to your advantage by holding on to tarot cards you don't need in order to block them so they can't show up in the shop. So I was holding that judgment for a bit. Um, Holding your hand, or holding it in your consumable area doesn't really matter too much as long as you don't need that slot for something else. Um, a lot of times I'll hold a tarot card throughout a shop and then sell it before the round starts so that Perkeo doesn't copy it. But that is, something you can do is hold tarot cards in order to block other cards from showing up. I'm also trying to convert all my kings to a single suit. We know that the spade suit is safe because the boss blind that disables spades already happened. So if I see an opportunity to get rid of a non-spade card, I'm going to take it. So now I have found the Showman. The Showman is one of our ways we can get duplicate Jokers. When you have the Showman, everything I just said about can't buy more than one copy of a Joker and can't buy more than one copy of a consumable goes out the window. You can now find duplicate Jokers and duplicate consumables in the shop and in packs. So the Showman is pretty good because I can maybe find another blueprint, find another brainstorm, find another mime. It is one of two ways to get copies of Jokers, and like I said, we need 3 Barons and 2 Mimes. And if you buy a Baron, a Mime, a Brainstorm, and a Blueprint, you're still 1 copy short. And so Showman is one of 2 ways at this point in the run to get our 5th copy of something. So I'm going to hold on to that for a bit, hoping to maybe find another Blueprint, another Brainstorm. Again, I still need the Deja Vu special card, and I need the Baron. And that's kind of the run at this point. It slows down a bit now that I've gotten most of the pieces, and I'm just focused on getting money, surviving, making sure my deck is all kings, and looking for those 2 things. By this point, I should have found a Deja Vu. Special cards come up enough that it's kind of crazy I haven't found one yet. But sometimes it happens. Sometimes you get really unlucky, and you just have to keep searching. The more money you have, the more likely you can find it. When I'm looking for tarot cards, I'm mostly looking for Temperance and Hermit because they give money. The Fool gives you a copy of the last tarot you use, so using the Fool to get more Temperances and Hermits are good because it means more re-rolling. The Hermit will double your money to a max of 20, which basically just reads it gives you 20. Temperance gives you money equal to the total sale value of all your Jokers. In this case, in this run, Temperance will give me more than Hermit, so I want Temperance more. I find a second mail-in rebate, and I sell the Showman to take it. And this was a little controversial, but the thing is, I need the Baron. That's what I need right now. If I got another Mime or another Blueprint, that's okay, but I need the Baron. And so I make a decision here that I'd rather have 2 rebates in order to get, I guess it'd be 25 more per discard, because that's more money to be able to re-roll to find the Baron. I had 2 minds of this. I could have kept, I could have kept the Showman. Finding another copy Joker would also be helpful for keeping us in this longer. We can easily beat 840,000, but in about an ante or 2, we're going to start getting up in the millions, and it's going to be harder to get, to make our score. So it's something I'm, considering. The faster I can get to the Baron, the better. Getting another Mime will increase our score a bit via the steal, but we're still kind of shackled to that steal there. Also, when I'm discarding the gold cards as well, because a gold card would give me $3 times how many Mimes I have, but discarding it gives me $5 times how many copy Jokers I have. So it's more money to discard the gold cards than to keep in my hand, especially because I need the steal cards in order to get my higher score. All my score right now it's coming from steel. None of my jokers, with the exception of Perkeo times my multiplier by 1.5 one time, none of my jokers are directly giving mult or chips. It's all coming from my seal cards and using the mime and copying the mime to re-trigger those seal cards over and over again. So here's an example. All hearts are debuffed, so that's one reason why we went with spades, because we know that boss blind is already passed, so that means this boss blind will do nothing, which is good for us. I throw the purple seal via the medium on this stone card. So stone cards are cards that are not they're not ranks, they're not suits. It's just a stone card. If you play, say, a pair and a stone, the stone will be scored as well. Stone cards give you 50 chips, which is not a lot. But what's important is that for something like Mail and Rebate, which picks a random card type from your deck every round, and then if you discard that, you get $5, stone cards don't count towards that. So it's another way of deck fixing. If you can't delete the card with a Hangman and you can't copy it via death, you can use the tower card on it to turn to a stone card, and this way it won't count towards Mail and Rebate. Because what we don't want is Mail and Rebate at the beginning of a turn, to randomly pick a non-king from our hand or from our deck, because we don't have that many. So if we have, say, we have 41 cards, if 38 of them are kings and the other 3 are a 7, 8, and a 10, if Mail and Rebate picks a 10, we're making no money that round. So we want to make sure we get to all kings as quick as possible, so that our Mail and Rebate every turn is always kings, and we can discard 5, get 75 per discard for 300 total if we use all of our discards on kings. Oh, I'm sorry, we're getting 20 now because we have 2 copy jokers and 2 Mail and Rebates, so that'd be 20 for each, so hundreds of 400 if we use all of it. Now, I said earlier, I was of 2 minds selling the Showman for the rebate. You can see here I have changed my mind. I've decided that I'm worried about my score in a few rounds. Maybe have another copy joker and another mime is good, and might as well do it now. If I find the Showman later when my score is tighter, I have less time to make that money back. I did find finally the Deja Vu though. So now I can make one of my cards a red seal. So I can make a red seal steel card, and then I could copy that and make more copies of it. And so I also pick up a cryptid because the Showman lets me get an extra cryptid copy as well. Now that means I have everything I need except for the Baron, and I'll need one more copy of a Baron, Mime, Blueprint, or Brainstorm as well. Those are the last 2 things I need in order to naneinf. And I also need 53 cryptids. I have 49, so I'm good. I'll have enough cryptids now because next turn I'll get 52, and the one after that I'll get 55. So I am good on cryptids. I just need the Baron, and I need one more Baron, Mime, Blueprint, Brainstorm. Maybe the Showman can help me get that. I put the red seal on the king on a steel card. I can later, I'll use a cryptid now to make 2 more copies of it. I can later use the devil card on one of those to turn to a gold card with a red seal, and this way it will trigger again in my hand. And I'll kind of do that to make a few steel, few gold. The red steel kings are what's going to be a lot of my score going forward. But red seal gold cards will result in more money. You can see here I've scored 77 million, which is good. It's 10 times, what I need. But in about an ante or 2, that's not going to be enough. And so I got to start figuring out something else. I'm kind of desperate at this point. I am getting $300 per churn, and I'm just re-rolling as much as I can. I got 4 re-rolls in a row with Mail and Rebate there, which is kind of funny. So I found the mime. So like I said, we needed an extra copy of Mime, Baron, Blueprint, or Brainstorm, and I found Mime, so now I just need the Baron. That's the only thing I need. The Mime will result in a little bit more money. It will also result in more score because all those steel cards will trigger again, but it won't result in as much as you think. And then I also kind of take a risk here by grabbing the Invisible Joker. I will say, I think in retrospect, this was a mistake. What the Invisible Joker does is it takes 2 turns to activate, but once it does, you'll see it bounce around a bit. And when you sell it, it picks a random Joker that you currently have, and it makes a copy of it. So what we'll do is we'll sell the Mystic Summit, and this way when we sell the Invisible Joker, it will either copy the Perkeo, the Blueprint, the Brainstorm, or either of the Mimes. And when it and that's all good, right? That getting more copy jokers or getting more mimes will result in higher score, more money. I kind of do it because I was scared of that I was not going to find the Baron anytime soon, but it also means by selling the mail and rebate, there goes a good chunk of my money, because instead of making like $250 to $300 per turn, I'm going to make like 70, because right now my only money is the re-triggering of these gold cards. I have 2 mimes and 2 barons and a red seal, so that's 2 mimes, 2 copy jokers, and a red seal, so that's 5, 6 times 3. So each red seal gold card is giving me $18, which is really good, but a large part of my hand is steel cards and not gold cards. So now I'm playing this weird balancing act of how many gold cards can I keep in my hand without sacrificing my score in order to make sure I can make as much money as possible so I can reroll the shop as much as possible. In hindsight, I probably should have kept the what's it called? The mail and rebate in order to make more money. But I was being a little conservative here. You don't want to lose the run, you want to win the run. So if it takes a little bit longer, that's fine. Invisible Joker is active now. That's why it's bouncing around. So I can sell it at any point to get another copy of one of my Jokers, which I think I will do in a little bit. What was I about to say with that? So I have 2 copy Jokers and a Perkeo, so I'm making 3 cryptids per churn. Well, you'll see me do it now, right? I don't know why I didn't now. I could have waited or not, but now I have 3 copy Jokers, so I'm going to copy Perkeo 3 times, and I'm going to make 4 cryptids per turn. I have the amount of cryptids I need. I need 53 to 54 cryptids in order to make enough red seal steel kings to win. So at this point, I can start using these cryptids, right? If I'm making 4 per churn, I can use 3 and still walk away positive on cryptids, right? I can use 4, and I have the amount of cryptids I need anyway, so I can use I can use these. I use 3 right now, and I'm still going to end up +1 for the churn on cryptids. So that's the nice thing about getting so many copy jokers and so many cryptids early on is my score is not great, but I can make more red seal. You can see here I made some more red seal and I made some more gold seal cards in order to try to get a higher score, because now last round I need 7 million, now I need 300 million, which is a lot more. But by also making more gold seal cards, I can hopefully make a little bit more money off that as well. So, made about $100. Not as good as that mail and rebate, but it's some money, which lets us re-roll more and more. I don't want to dip below 53 or 54 cryptids. If this goes on too long and the score gets too high, I'm going to have to use cryptids on steel cards just to get the score I need to win. If that's the case, then as long as I don't use more than 4 cryptids in a churn, I will still have enough to be able to score naneinf. I've definitely had runs where you get really unlucky and you don't find the cards you need, and you get to the point where your scoring is so high that even if you use as many cryptids as you're generating per churn, you won't score enough, and then you have to start going negative with your cryptids. And depending on how many you generate, you could get into a situation where it means you can't win the game. So that is something to keep in mind. We don't want to dip too low with our cryptids, but at this point, we're getting a little pressure, and we definitely need to find the Baron sometime soon. I'm kind of just looking for the Baron now when I'm going through the shops. I'm also looking for any Temperances or Hermits, or any Deaths, because if I can, my deck still has a lot of kings like that King of Heart, but also has some cards without red seals. So if I can find more Deaths, I can copy some of these red seals to, you know, hopefully live longer and generate more money. But that's kind of it right now. I need more red seals. You can see here, you know, I need to generate more because only scored 174 million. I need 450 million. So I'm getting a little desperate. If this goes on too long, I'll have to discard all my gold cards and focus just on steel cards in order to um, guarantee I have the score to continue. But that means less money, which means less rerolls. I'm sounding repetitive, I know, and less money means less chance to get a Baron. So at this point, we're getting a little desperate. And most runs get to this desperate state. You're looking for something or another. There's always one thing eluding you around this part, so you're just re-rolling until you find it. But that's what I'm kind of doing now. I'm just looking for that Baron, buying Temperances, buying Hermits, buying Fools, just trying to find it. Just re-rolling. At this point, there's not as much to talk about because we're singular focused. Early on, I was talking a mile a minute because I'm working a mile a minute. My brain's going a mile a minute. There's so much going on, so many things to consider. Now things have slowed down. You get nervous because it's RNG at this point. But I pause here because I'm debating selling a mine for a mail-in rebate. But it becomes easier to play, but a lot more nerve-wracking because it's a lot more out of your control. There's a lot less decisions you personally have to make. So this boss blind is the wall, which just means that your scoring requirement is much larger than it would normally be when you get here. At this point, we're generating enough steel cards with our cryptids that breaking 1.2 billion is possible. It's not comfortable because we don't want to, use too many cryptids. I use 3 here, and we have 4 to kind of work with before we start decreasing the amount of cryptids we have. But it's a pretty easy blind or boss blind this late in the run. But if we got that earlier, it could actually end your run early. The wall is sometimes, depending on your setup, pretty brutal early on. But late game, it's one of the ones I like seeing. It's a pretty easy to overcome. Like you see, we have E to the 12, so we're a few 10s higher. But yeah, still trying to find that Baron. Pick up the Fool to make another Hermit. Every little bit of money is important here. As I just keep searching for the guy, for the boy, wherever he is. Another Temperance. Still don't have it. So now we went from 1.2 billion to 47 billion. So you can see it in endless mode as every ante goes up. Your score gets higher and higher, which makes this more and more nerve-wracking. I was just checking to see how many kings I still had that weren't spades. So at this point, I am discarding just down to red seal cards at this point. So I'm going to use 3 cryptids. So I still have 1 more, making mostly steel, but some gold. But I really need to find that Baron like now. Normally runs aren't this close, but we're still generating money, so it's not it's not the end of the world. We could also always find something like an invisible Joker or something to maybe get an extra copy Joker. An extra mine will get us a little bit farther, but probably would only get us like another ante, right? So at this point, just that Baron is what we're looking for. One thing I was also doing earlier is I would buy tarot cards like Death, and I would purposely bring them into packs so I could copy them. Oh, there he is. There's the boy. So now we're done. We are done. So I sell it per KO. I don't need it anymore. I have everything I need to now score naneinf. So like I said, I needed 3 Barons and 2 Mimes. I actually have more than I need here. With the copy Jokers, I actually have 3 Barons, or 4 Barons and 2 Mimes, or 3 Barons and 3 Mimes. So I sort of make a mistake here. You can see now I'm using all my cryptids. It's going to make a lot of cards. Once I hit go, it will take normally about 4 minutes or so to go through the scoring to hit naneinf. The run ends when the hand is done, not when you hit naneinf. And I kind of forgot that instead of 3 barons and 2 mimes, I have 4 barons and 2 mimes, which means that I will hit naneinf with plenty of cards to spare. This would have been slightly more than enough normally, but I actually have 1 more than I normally need. And so, therefore, I kind of actually lost like a minute and a half here. I should have sold one of the blueprints or something, or one of the brainstorms or something like that. So I should have sold one of the cards that wasn't the Baron here, and that would have sped up the scoring faster. So I actually lost like over a minute by doing that. But yeah, here it goes. It is very satisfying hearing all the sound and the triggering, but it takes about 4 minutes, which is great for a marathon. It means there's plenty of time for me on my couch to say our thank yous and for more donations and everything. It's a nice little victory lap as you just wait for everything to go through. So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, there is a end state you need here. There is a list of requirements, but the order you get them in and how you get them can really change, which makes every run very different. This will come in slightly less than an hour, which is slightly faster than I would say my average. I'm still starting to track them and everything. My time is going down, but I think for Magfast, I'm going to set an estimate at an hour and 20 minutes, which is around what ADEF set at Summer Games Done Quick 2026 when he ran the same category. It's just good in case things go really, really bad that I have some cushion, but in reality, it should be around an hour, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, it really depends on what we find. Additionally, as an incentive, what I'm suggesting is, excuse me, as an incentive is for me to run a seeded naneinf run. So if we get a certain donation incentive after this run, I'll load up a seed and do naneinf again. Since it's seeded, I can practice that seed as much as I want beforehand, and I can go through and figure out the exact minimum number of clicks and actions on a seed that would give me stuff like Mime, Baron, Blueprint, Brainstorm early on. And in a seeded run, I can probably get naneinf within 10 minutes. There are plenty of seeded runs online, get posted on Reddit all the time. So I'll go through, I'll find one that's really quick, I'll practice it over and over and over again so I know exactly the moves I have to do, and we can have a nice donation incentive of a nice quick sub 10-minute naneinf, which, you know, is always fun to see, you know. Like I said, 10 to the 305 is we have to break, so naneinf is slightly past that. When that happens, you'll see some nice visual effects. Normally, the game's already freaking out at this point, but one of the mods I'm using seems to have done something with the visuals, so I need to go through and figure that out, because it actually looks cooler. Normally, the numbers start popping out really crazy at this point, but you'll see when it hits 305, things will start looking weird, and yeah, some people call it the funny number, right? You know, like you play until you get the funny number. So we're coming up on it in a minute, yeah, it's cool. It's cool to hear all the sounds, all the triggers, and then see the game break a little bit. And there you go. So now it broke, and now we've hit naneinf. So if I kept playing, you would see the game's broken for the rest of the game, like the visual of the flames. It kind of like burns in when you hit infinity. But you can see here, that was like around 58 minutes, and I still have a good amount of cards left because I kind of forgot that I'm actually too powerful once I found that Baron. I should have made less copies, or I should have sold one of the blueprints or something in order to get to that 3 Baron 2 Mime combination. This is completely overkill. But after how stressed I was to find that Baron, I'm okay with it being overkill, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, we'll be done in a few seconds. And like I said, this probably cost me about a minute and a half or so, or, you know, minute 20 to because I overestimated this. But you'll see the time stop. That we're using a timer mod that will automatically start and stop it, so that's kind of nice. I don't have to worry about stopping anything myself. And so we have 2 cards left, 1 card left, and here's our final card and time. 59 minutes 18 seconds. So it added about a minute doing all the extras, but from when you hit go, it's about 4 minutes until the timer actually stops. So yeah, that's it. And then the rest of the video is just me selling some jokers and just getting a game over because, just try to end it as quick as possible. But you can see it's burnt in. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this gets selected. I think that it's very fun for a game that is just playing cards. It's super fast paced and really difficult to do. You really have to have played it a lot to really understand how a lot of these jokers work in order to get to a point where you can do this, even if it does look easy. But it's fun, and casual people who've only played a little bit of Balatro love seeing the super high number. It's always a nice, cool spectacle to show. So I think it would be a great run for Magfast. So yeah, we'll wait for this to be done and get the game over, and then that will be it. So good luck with your selection, and have a great day.